Good afternoon, friends. It's Heather at Bush Poppy Farm. I hope you are doing well. I have a bunch of plants to show you for the new cottage garden and to update you on how we're doing on our seed starting, where the seedlings stand, the current ones that are up, all that kind of stuff. So stay tuned. So it is 2:30 p.m. Have you ever had those days where you're just busy all day? You've been doing stuff all day, but yet you feel like you've gotten nothing done? That's what today feels like. So, yeah, it got really cold last night. It went down to 26 Fahrenheit here at my house, which really stinks because I did not cover my citrus. The weather report said that it wasn't going to get that low, and it did. I always forget. Well, it's not that I forget. Anyway, it gets a lot colder here at my house than just up the street because we're down in this like kind of little hollow. So yeah, I hope that I haven't damaged the citrus. The problem is sometimes it's not so much the temperature, it's how long it's at that temperature. And when we went to bed last night at 10, it was already 32 degrees. So I should have come out and covered everything, but I didn't. So I am going to cover it tonight because this kind of, the frost warning, the freeze warning continues through Thursday. So, you know, I'll just cover them for the next couple days and hope that I didn't damage them last night. But I wanted to update you on what's going on in the greenhouse. Yesterday, I did a bunch of seed starting and I still have a ton of seed starting to do. But we're supposed to finally get some rain on Friday. So I think I'm going to wait for the remaining seeds until Friday. When it's raining, I can be out here doing work. But in the interim, for these few sunny days we're going to have, I really need to get some work done in the cottage garden and at the farm. And it's going to be a rough week to do it. I've got a bunch of meetings, so it's going to be hard to make sure I get enough done outside before the rain sets in. I mean, I'm thrilled that the rain's coming back. That's really great news. But that means that the soil will be wet and not as easy to work. So I got to start taking advantage of the final few days of sun that we're going to have. All right, so what's going on in the greenhouse? First thing I did today that took a whole lot longer than I expected it to was I needed to replace 4 of my lights. Here's the old ones over here. These were completely busted and they don't sell replacement bulbs, which is nuts to me. I mean, they're very, very, very cheap, which is probably not a good thing, but they did last for 4 years. So I guess I can't complain too much. Anyway, I needed to replace those. So that took a lot longer than I had expected. But now all of the shelves have 2 lights and they all light up and we're all good. So I've still got seeds under here germinating. We've got seeds that I started yesterday under here germinating. I think this was tomatoes and yeah, I think it's all tomatoes under here. All right, and then here I've got a bunch of stuff I started yesterday too. This is status and more stock. And then I have, yeah, more stock back here. So I'm trying to go through all of my stock seeds because I'm just not going to grow that anymore. And since I have space at the farm, there were some fall planted ones. They're doing pretty well. And now these are going to be a second succession, very early spring planting of stock. So those are started. Here we've got some broccoli and then like pansies and things back there that are germinated and they're sitting under the lights. These guys have been up for a while. This is everything from violas and salvias to lettuces. I got coreopsis. There's just a whole mess of stuff in here. And some of these, like these guys here, and these guys in the back need to get potted up to bigger containers. We've got sweet peas here. This is all a bunch of brassicas, collards and things. And then you can really tell with, oh, hyssop and penstemon and some other stuff that these are all perennials that will eventually go in the cottage garden. But because they're perennials, they're slower growing. Now, still to start, I'm going to do that later this week. I've got this tray here. Here's all the seed packets, but we're going to be starting, you know, more Ami, Dara, Sweet Alyssum for the garden, and then like Celosia, like this spun sugar, glowing embers, and vintage rose. So this tray will be that kind of stuff. And then this, I think, is pretty much all snapdragons with the, snapdragons and then scabiosa, like this formula mix here. And I think one or two more status. And then this tray is all peppers. So everything's ready. It's all labeled. I have a big bag of seed starter mix and my seed soil blocker. So I've got to get those started. And then there was a few more that I found in my seed storage kit when I was putting things away. I have some snapdragons. This is Potomac yellow. It's a pelleted seed, which makes it easier to sow. Avignon ivory, another snapdragon, and another pelleted snapdragon, Potomac royal. And then I'm also starting this ornamental pepper. It's not edible, but looks really, really cool. I meant to start it last year and I just kind of didn't. I ran out of time and then it wasn't worth starting. Then I'm also starting, and these are from Sunflower Steve, this Carolina lupine and this Baptisia. These guys have been in, these seeds have been in the refrigerator for about a month. They need cold stratification and they're doing that. And so it's about time to start them. And then the other thing I wanted to show you is the seedlings that I did pot up earlier. Some of them doing better than others. All this dianthus, I mean, it's not doing that well. Some of it is. I don't really care. I'm using up seeds for dianthus. Like some of this stuff is doing fine. This is the Maximilian sunflower. We've got freesia here, catnip back here that looks great. But the rest of this is dianthus, and again, I'm just using up seed. Then back here is a bunch of salvias. Some of them are doing well, some of them are not. That's what happens when you use old seed. So I'll be pleased with whatever comes out of this. So I went to the store this morning to pick up another bag of seed starter. And of course, while I was there, I got plants. So let's go look at those. I will show you what I've got. Some of them are designated already for a home. Well, most of them are. I just don't necessarily have exactly where I'm going to put all of them, but most of them are for the cottage garden. So let's take a look. First of all, I got another cyclamen to replace this one, which for some reason is just not doing well. It's got some new buds here, but it's just, that's weird. It almost looks like it's got a root issue, root disease, because this one over here looks great. So I'm just going to replace that one instead of trying to limp it along. Okay, and then I picked up a couple of primulas that are new to me and really, really cool looking. So these guys can take full sun to partial shade. They are these guys here. It's zebra, but look at that flower. Isn't that so cool? I just love it. I don't know how well the camera picks it up, but this is like a navy blue stripe with a yellow center. So these guys, and one each of these, this is Precanto blue. I thought that was really, really cool. Those guys are going to go in the containers on either side of my bedroom, where the hot lips salvia in there probably will come back, but the artemisia and the other plant that was in there, I don't even know what it was, have really died back. I'm just going to pull those out. So these guys will replace those. Then we also got, so I end up getting things usually in 3s or more so that I can make drifts. And so this one is a beard tongue called Pocahontas. So this gets between 3 and 4 feet tall, and you can see it's got these really beautiful flowers on them, almost snapdragon-like flowers. So these guys, there's 3 of them. I'm going to put them in a drift in the cottage garden. The other one's over here. Then I've got 3 Achillea milliform. This is yarrow, and this is Sonoma Coast. It's a beautiful white yarrow, really dense. And so I've got 3 of those. And then I picked up some 6-packs. These are just a 6-pack of Russell's Hybrid Mix lupines. Same thing here. And the reason I did get some of these 6-packs is that lupines and foxgloves are short-lived perennials. And so even though they drop a ton of seeds, they don't always come back like you want them to. So I always pop in a few every year, and then the ones that self-sow, and the others you know, I always have some. So that's why I got those. And speaking of foxgloves, I got a 6-pack of this Excelsior mix and a 6-pack of, I think it's the Dalmatian series. It's an apricot pink. And then I got this Nepeta. This is called, I think, Six Hills Giant, and it gets really, really tall. I love Nepeta, cat's paw, basically. And it gets really, really tall, beautiful flowers, a lot like lavender, and nice and bushy and just really dense. It's beautiful. And it spreads nicely in the garden. It's not a bully, so we'll have some of those as well. So a lot of those perennials that are in there in the greenhouse will come out here to the cottage garden, but none of that can happen until I get the cottage garden weeded and mapped, and I know where everything is so I can put stuff in. I want to be much more strategic about it this time rather than just shoving things in there hodgepodge. So what I'm going to do right now, and I was hoping the sun would still be on the garden, but it's getting too late in the day for that, so it's cold. But I am going to start, I think actually I'll start down here at the short end, the narrow end, and I'm just going to start weeding. I have my hoe out here. I'm going to start pulling out, you know, with the hoe, all of the tiny, tiny weeds everywhere. Also pulling up some of the invasive things that I don't want. And I've got a really good tool for that. This guy is really great for getting underneath the plant and pulling up a taproot. So I'm going to be using that, especially because most of what I'm pulling up out of here is not spiny or pokey. So it's much easier to work with. And so I'll just start working my way down. I don't know how far I'll get today because I have a call at 3 o'clock, and that is 20 minutes. So we'll see. I can always come back out after that, but it's going to be dark and cold as the day goes on. So we'll just get what we can get done and then start fresh tomorrow morning. So the next morning. I didn't film what I did last night because it was pretty dark. I worked literally until I could not see my hands anymore. I probably could have gotten a headlamp, but it was very cold. It was 30 degrees and I was out here still working, but I made so much progress and it felt really good and I was very excited and I'm still excited. So let me show you what I did. I'm so thrilled with this. It's a fresh start. It's like a blank slate again. I mean, there's still plants in here, but I'm just so happy with what I see. Okay, so basically what I did was I went in, first I tried with the hoe, and that wasn't super effective because the prunella, which is the most abundant weed in here, really has matting roots, and so I just got down on my hands and knees and went in with my hands, and that was way more effective. But as you can see, I've pulled up every weed and I've exposed so many spring bulbs. Like these are hyacinths here. I totally forgot that I had planted those and they were hidden under a mat of weeds and they probably never would have come up. These daffodils would eventually have broken the surface, but the tinier ones like the crocus and stuff, they probably wouldn't have been able to. So this is so exciting to me. Now this Dusty Miller, I probably am going to pull out. It's looking kind of rough. And I've got plenty of others, so I might just pull this guy out, but I'm not worried about that right now. My main focus is continuing this process. So there's some foxglove in here. There were a bunch at the very front up here. I pulled all those out because they'll get too tall and that's the wrong thing for the front of the border. So if they're in the back, that's fine. Like those guys down there, they can be in the back. That's fine, but this just makes me so happy. I found a whole bunch of irises that I didn't know were here. I've freed up some of this ground cover. I think it's a sedum. In places, we will come in with a different ground cover in the front. I think probably thyme, because it's so fast growing and it will really beat back the grass and the weeds. I'm just so happy with this. Now, the area down here that was all disturbed by the gophers, where you see all of these irises, that was actually quite a struggle because it was so piled up. The soil was so piled up. I really had to dig down to get at the weeds that were underneath the soil. But again, I was able to expose a whole lot of daffodils that have just been languishing under here and having a really hard time. And now they're free to do whatever they want to do. And then this is as far as I got before it just was too cold and too dark for me to continue working. So we still have all of this to do. So you can see what I'm talking about here. This is the before, basically. All of this prunella and other, creeping ground cover that are just, grasses and stuff like that. All of that is going to come out. And it will all end up looking like this. A nice blank slate with stuff already in place. And now I know exactly where I can put the plants that I've already got. And then I can plan for other stuff as time goes on. And I definitely want to give some time for more of these spring bulbs to come up. However, the plants that I have now that I showed you in the first part of this video, those I can go ahead and start siting once I get the whole thing cleared out, because they're just going to be in little drifts of like 2 or 3. And I know the heights of those, so I can place them front, mid, or back of the bed and we'll be all good. But in terms of like bigger things, especially down at that end where the bed is bigger, I want to have more time to contemplate that and think about what I want to do. So basically what I'm going to do for the rest of today is continue to clear out this bed. It is very wet out here. It's a little bit warmer. It's about 45 degrees Fahrenheit, but my hands, that was the struggle last night. My knees, because they were frozen because I didn't use a kneeler. So I'm going to go find my kneeler because they were sopping wet. My knees were sopping wet in my jeans. And then my hands were wet and very cold too. But it was extremely satisfying, so satisfying. It's kind of like when you, like one of the reasons I love ironing is the result at the end is so satisfying. And vacuuming, like this is that same kind of feeling, but with promise of all the things that I can do out here. And it's going to be such a beautiful bed this year. And that makes me really happy because last year I barely did anything. And as you can see, it got way overgrown, just did not perform. It was not really pleasing to look at. We had a couple of things that were like, oh, that's pretty. But for the most part, it was basically just a bed full of junk. So this feels great. It feels very liberating. All right, so I'm going to go find my kneeler. I think it's out by the chicken run in the storage box. And then I'm going to get started here soon, probably in the next hour. The sun will be on this bed for about an hour or 2 hours, maybe 3 if I'm lucky. And that will be so glorious. I'll probably even get hot, but that'll be great. But in the meantime, I'm going to get back to work because once this weeding part is done, then I can start siting those plants. And actually, we've been going down below freezing every night, which is normal for us. But those plants, which are hardy, and yes, they've been sitting at the nursery in their containers, out in the open, since they got them in stock. And so that's not like they're suffering there, but they'll do way better in the ground with more insulation. So it's not a problem for me to start planting those now. Our ground doesn't freeze. And so it's not like I'm digging into frozen solid ground to put a plant in. So let me go get my kneeler and get started. And hopefully I can finish this part. What's left is actually the biggest section. So it'll be slower going than the previous ones just because the bed is wider here, especially down at this end. And you can see there's just a ton of stuff. And I don't know how much of it I'm going to keep. I think I'm going to dramatically cut back the Dusty Miller. It will come back just fine. But I'll cut back a lot more of it. So it's a little more tidy And then over here, you know, it'll feel so nice to get this super weeded because there are lots of great spots in here for more plants and bigger structural ones in the back. Here we've got buddleia and salvias that get pretty big, but I could put, I could even put a small, like I could put the rose bush there if I wanted to, although I'm thinking if I did that, pruning it might be hard because I want to get around the back, and whenever I have to stand on this back wall, it's literally a wall that goes down a cliff. So I kind of don't want to spend a whole bunch of time back there, and if I tuck that rose bush too close to the back, it's going to be really hard to trim the back safely. So, but I could put something there like a small fruit tree, or I don't know, a blueberry bush or something like that. Or even, I was thinking about that fig tree that's up front that really needs to come out of that pot, but that's a huge tree and it will eventually shade all of this. So I don't think I want to do that. I would put citrus here, but our soil is too much clay for citrus. That's why they're in pots. And so I just don't think it would thrive there. But, you know, I've got options and possibilities, and that makes me excited and happy. So I'm going to get started, and then hopefully if I can get all the weeding done today, maybe we can start siting and planting some of those little perennials that I got yesterday at the nursery. Well, the weeding is done. That did take a lot longer. The bed is bigger, but also I was battling a lot of grass, and that's a whole different animal. But I think we're in good shape. I probably do need to put some soil down in some places, and that's fine. I can get a bunch of compost in and just give it all a nice layer and fill in some of the depressed parts. I can add some extra soil. But we started here. This is where I left off last night, and really getting through this area where there was all the gopher disruption was really a lot of work. Not that it was hard, but it just, because there was like 4 or 5 inches of soil built up on top of the previous ground level. And so all the weeds that I needed to get were underneath all that. So I had to move all that soil. Anyway, it seems to have worked out, but it is a little bit lower through here, but that's all right. We can add. But I mean, I found a whole bunch of stuff that I didn't know was still there. This is very exciting. Yeah, so we've got a bunch of irises that are doing great. And we've got our daffodils and some muscari and hyacinths and things that, you know, came out of hiding. Now you'll see there's still quite a bit of what looks like weeds, but that's actually creeping thyme. So I didn't pull all of that up. I will get a bunch more and add it in, and that thyme will form a really good mat. I use it in a lot of places. It's so good because it takes off pretty quickly, and then nothing can get through that. It's just like an impenetrable barrier. I will have to keep weeding around my plants that I don't want that to be right up on top of. But yeah, so this is so much better. So I've got, you know, plenty of really pretty, appropriate height plants up here. I did pull some of them out, like this lamb's ear here. I actually never planted these lamb's ears. I think they just migrated over from here when this was all in bloom, because I left the flowers up for a long time, because the pollinators were enjoying them, and then of course it dropped seed. And I think the wind just deposited them here, and now they're here. But this stuff spreads literally like a weed. So I pulled up a bunch of them. I'll keep a few, but I'm gonna keep them very small over here. I don't want this becoming a carpet of lamb's ear. As pretty as it is, it does tend to get messy looking because the lower leaves rot and then it gets all like mushy and stuff in there, and then it basically smothers anything that's near it. So again, with certain ground covers, you want to be more on top of it, and I need to be doing that. So I did cut back quite a bit of this dusty miller. I might cut back a little bit more, but I wanted to have some more daylight in here because there's plenty of space in here for other plants, where before we just had branches coming from this one laying down and taking over the space. And then this is the biggest part of the bed, and there are giant alliums that haven't come up yet in here. There's just a whole bunch of cool bulbs. So I'm not going to really do any planting in this area right now. I'm going to give this a couple of weeks for the stuff that I know is going to come up in here, because that will be a place marker of where I don't want to put something else. Now, I could plant if I wanted to, and if I came across, one of the bulbs, just rebury it, but then I would forego probably the flower of that for this season. So I'm just going to give this some space and give it some time, but I am going to stay on top of the weeds because they will come back very quickly, especially the grasses. So this is going to be kind of a constant battle in here, but I just love how clean it looks, so I want to keep it that way. I'm very happy to see that this hollyhock is looking great. I planted that from seed 3 years ago. And of course, they're biennials. So the first year, it was just the greenery. Then the second year, we got flowers finally. And this is the Black Watchman variety. And then last year, there was nothing because it re-sowed and it was putting out greenery, and building a root system. So this year, we should be getting some flowers in there. And I do see hollyhocks in other places in the garden here that I never planted, which means the seeds from this one traveled and self-sown. So that's great. I love hollyhocks, and I especially love them on the back borders because they get so tall. So I pulled up any that were really close to the front edge. I want to keep the tall stuff in the back. So basically, while I was doing this, just going through thinking about where things were and what I wanted in terms of height. Now, there is one salvia that is doing so beautifully, but it's very short. This beautiful salvia back here behind the dusty miller, I don't know the variety, but it's just beautiful and it's spreading so lovely. It's a ground cover salvia, which apparently I didn't realize when I put it there, because I never would have put a ground cover salvia in the back of the bed, but I don't want to pull it out. It's so nice. I might take cuttings, a bunch of hardwood cuttings, and I could do that now, this time of year, and then I can propagate them other places in this bed. So I probably will do that, but I'm going to leave the main plant there. If it becomes a problem in terms of, I need that spot for something really big and tall, then I'll think about moving it. But it's so pretty and it's so healthy, and it's the only salvia that has stayed green and evergreen. I mean, it actually looks kind of like a white sage, but it's not. I know that. So, we'll see. Like I said, I'll propagate some of it and we'll see where we'll go. But I am so, so happy to have done this project. And it feels so good because it looks so good. I haven't even put new plants in here and it just looks so great. I'm so happy. So if I'm smart and I keep up with the weeding, then I should never have to do this again. This should be it. So I'm going to go ahead and focus on putting some plants that I already bought in, kind of starting right here and moving this way, because these bulbs are coming up faster than the ones down there. I'm not sure why, but I know more of where things are in here. And also the things that I'm going to plant are in very small containers. They're just in 6-inch pots, 4 6-inch pots. And so I can make space for them in here. I know where I can put them because I can clearly see the ground. And then over the next week or so, I can get more soil and just give them a top dressing of really nice compost, and they'll be ready to start the season. So I am really, really excited about this. So I'm going to grab my stuff and start placing them around. Now in the back here, we've got these foxglove. That one had a flower stalk, so I don't think it's going to produce any flower stalks for me this year, but I'm leaving it there for now. We'll see. Basically, they're placeholders right now. I can always put, I do have other foxgloves, so I think what I'll do is I'll put the new ones around them, because those get really tall. Every time I grow them in this garden, they get up to 6 feet, the stalks do. So perfect for the back of the border. And since I already have foxglove there, I think I'll just disperse a few more in there. I've got a couple 6-packs. So I will plant those around the existing foxgloves. These two here are also foxglove, and they definitely will flower this year because I can see that is new growth in the middle. Those are going to send up a stalk. So yeah, I can put some more little ones around here, and I won't have to worry about disturbing bulbs because they're little tiny 6-pack plugs. So it'll be all good. And then the others, we'll just start fanning them out. But I would love to get as many of those planted as possible. I think I can do them all today, because then they'll be in the beds. They'll be more protected from whatever weather is coming for the rest of the winter, and it'll fill in the space a little bit. I still definitely will need to get a whole bunch of ground cover. And like I said, I think it's going to be mostly creeping thyme, although I am starting Sweet Alyssum, the Oriental Nights variety, from seed, and I can always pop those in here and there too. Those are great. They get nice and big, and they have a good mounded habit, so they would be really pretty on the front of the border. All right, I'm going to lay things out, see where it makes the most sense in terms of their height, and start transplanting. Mission accomplished. at least for now, it's a start. So yeah, let's just go over what you just saw. So I put a 6-pack of lupins in here because I already have one. So they're in here. They're spaced roughly a foot apart, which is fine. They'll get nice and dense, and they do drop their huge seeds. So generally I do get some resowing in here. The only thing is the rabbits seem to really love to eat lupins, and so hopefully these guys will make it. I don't know, maybe I'll go grab a cloche and bring it out, but I haven't seen any bunnies in our yard yet this year. And then I dotted the 6-pack of, this is the pink Dalmatian foxglove, through here. I put the blue star ceanothus there. We've got some more foxglove dotted through here on the back row. And then we've got the yarrow. This is, I think it's a coastal something, but it's white. It's a really pretty one. That's more of like a 1 to 2 feet high plant, so it's perfect for the middle. Then we've got the fuchsias here. There's one right there and one right there, also 1 to 2 feet high and about a 1 to 2 foot spread. I didn't want to really do much in this ring of irises because I'm hoping they'll spread more and fill in. Then we've got the beard tongue. We've got one right there. I was going to put one right here so we'd have a 3 in a row, but there is a salvia here that I'm hoping will come back. That guy right there. And this pop-up sprinkler here, if I put too many big tall things in front, it blocks the spray and then nothing in the front of the bed gets water and the grass doesn't get water either. So I have to be mindful of that. We do need to make some major changes to the irrigation, put risers on these so that they can spray outwards and get the grass. The only grass we have on our whole property is this strip here. And as you can see, it's a lot of, it's not like we're in love with it. We don't need grass. And slowly I've been taking over the grass, and mostly it's weeds, but I don't want it to be completely dead. And so until we're gonna have different planting schedules, I'd like to at least keep it green while we can. So also in here, I've planted more lupins, and this is the Nepeta. That one will get nice and big and mounded, 1 to 2 feet high, about a 2 foot spread. And then, like I said, more lupins here. And the final beard tongue I ended up putting over here. So all of this is still not planted with anything new. I'm gonna take, like I said, take time, see where everything is. And you know, in the greenhouse, we've got lots of salvias, we've got calendula, and I do want to put a bunch of rudbeckia out here because that will be blooming later in the summer. So that's where I'll fill in a lot of the holes. Because the other thing is the daffodils, once they finish blooming, I have to leave them here until the leaves are completely brown. Then I can cut back those leaves. And so that's many months, and it can look kind of raggedy unless I have other plants around them to, you know, draw the eye. So that's where I'm thinking of putting things like calendula and rudbeckia and stuff. But I am so pleased. I honestly thought this project would take way longer than it did, but other than adding some new plants, ones that we've got growing and probably things that I'll find at the nursery, and then really thinking about building the foundation back here with some taller stuff. I still have to figure out where I want to put that rose. I just don't know yet, but I have time to think. It's not like it has to go in the ground right now. Within the next couple of weeks, I'm going to make a decision and put it in. Then I also planted up these 2 containers here with the primulas. This is a Hot Lips salvia back here, and this will come back, and this is a perennial. These guys are short-lived perennials. They'll be okay in here until it starts getting really hot, and then we'll put some summer stuff in. But it's nice to have some pretty color. I just really love this blue one, this blue and white stripe. It's so cool. I've never seen one like that before. Okay, guys, that's it. That's 2 days in this video, 2 days worth of work, but I'm thrilled. I'm so happy. And I did leave plant tags in some of these because I have a tendency to forget what they are. And so I was like, you know, I'll leave the plant tags until I say it enough times and I remember, because that way I can be sure to know. All right, thanks so much for hanging out with me. I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and maybe do some dreaming of something new for yourself, whether that's a container with some herbs, or African violet for your windowsill, or a whole garden reno, who knows? But I hope you have a wonderful time in your garden, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.